Folks, this episode is brought to you by Patriot Gold Group. Call 888-505-9845. Mention me, Michael Malice, and get your free investor guide today. Again, that's 888-505-9845 for your free investor guide today. Good evening, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. We have with us a really special guest. I've been waiting to do this episode for weeks. We have Ben Askren, Olympic wrestler, All-American wrestler, MMA champion, and the guy who fought Jake Paul. His new book is called Funky, and I wanted to wait to read this before I had you on, Ben. And I'll tell you, this is the whole long backstory. I had this whole speech in my head.
Okay,
so just sit
let's
back.
do it.
I'm always scared when people who I'm pals with write books, because I think a lot of times they're going to be crap. And I really, really enjoyed this. And here's why I really liked it. I did the second MMA book, which was Matt Hughes. Do you know who's the first MMA guy to get a book deal? Trivia question.
Well, so I've read a few, but maybe Chuck Liddell, maybe
he was third.
BJ Penn?
Much later. You'll never guess it. It's
Mark Kerr.
That would be a good guess. That's who you would have thought, right? It's someone who should have the same nickname as both of us.
I'm trying to look at my shelf because I have my bookshelf is over like here.
It's a small book. It's not a hardcover. It was from some indie publisher.
Pat Miletich?
Jens Pulver.
Oh, I don't know if I read that one actually.
It's called Little Evil.
Really? I actually didn't know. No, so I've never heard of this book. I thought I read most of the MMA books. No, I've never seen this one.
The first one. And the thing when you're doing books like this, which when you get it, people get it wrong, is when you don't get the guy's personality. Like you're very known and you talk a lot about this book, about how your personality, how you get heat, how you like running your mouth. The fans like it. You have fun. And that really much came through in this book. It also came through. You talk a lot of crap, but you also say who you like, who you don't like, and you give the reasons for it. And one of the things I liked a lot, and I think this is you kind of being inspirational for the kids coming up, and maybe we could start here, is you were this complete badass as a high school wrestler. You were, getting all sorts of challenges, so on and so forth. And then when it came time for you to go to college, no one was calling you.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that you talked about in this book, which I really appreciated, instead of being like, I didn't care, I knew I was hot shit, you talked about how much it hurt and how much it bothered you. And I think, I spent a lot of time with MMA guys, especially those with a wrestling background. Wrestling is in many ways this kind of thankless sport. Like no one comes out, like maybe your family and friends support, but it's really kind of in many ways underground. A lot of the kids don't come from privileged backgrounds because you don't need a lot of equipment to be a wrestler, and you're kind of doing it for yourself. And can you talk a bit about what that was like for you?
Yeah. Well, so, I talk about that a lot because some wrestlers, and I hate when they do this, but they whine about like not getting enough publicity or coverage. And obviously we're at a much better point than we were 20 years ago when I was coming out of high school with Flow Wrestling and other options that we have. But at the end of the day, I wanted to wrestle because I wanted to wrestle. And I didn't care how many people were in the stands. I just loved to compete. Now, if people showed up, also great. And I was going to try to encourage them to do that. But if they weren't there, I wasn't really going to whine. I just wanted to wrestle. And that, I think that's kind of what it boils down to. And in your life also is like, you should make decisions because you want to make decisions. You should do things because you want to do things, not because of what the public's going to think, not because of other things, but just because you really enjoy those things.
Yeah, but at the same time, it does suck when you are working hard and there's not the payoff you expect, when people who you are objectively more athletic than and are more accomplished.
But don't you? I feel like that was part of the deal. Like, when I started wrestling, like I kind of knew that.
Okay.
I wasn't going to be like the football quarterback or the basketball player or that type of thing. And I actually think, so I run our youth wrestling academy. I think people ask me all the time, like, would you ever coach MMA? And one of the main reasons, probably the main reason I don't think I would ever do that is because I was at Rufus Sport for 7 years and I saw how many parents walked into that building and said some nonsense about their kid being the next big star on TV.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was their motivation, was to get their kid to be a star on TV. It wasn't like when people come to my academy, it's like They want the kids to like work hard, learn some discipline, you know, like these type of characteristics, perseverance, etc. Not because they're going to be a big star on TV.
One of the things that was really kind of funny to read about is when like again, this is something that I really thought was great, is when you were up and coming, you were on these bulletin boards. I guess were you under a sock? Were you under a sock? And you're just arguing with adults about how this Ben kid really has it, and you don't know what you're talking about.
No, I admitted I was myself. I said
okay.
I came out as myself. Yes.
But like you're like, after you're like, you know, putting your work, you know, your wrestling's exhausting, grueling work. Obviously, it takes you use all parts of your body, and it's hard cardio and it's hard, you know, physical strength as well. But then you're on your computer typing away. Like, what was that like?
I thought that was so fun. I mean, I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. But so, you know, to kind of give the start of that story is I didn't know what these things were, message boards, right? You know, this is the year, not either 99 or 2000. Right. And so message boards, I think to me were new to me. I think they were kind of new at that time, just in general. Were you a big message board guy? You probably were, right?
Do you want to hear this really funny story?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. This is so out of left field, but it's completely crazy because this is my early trolling. There was Usenet, right?
I don't know.
So Usenet would be like alt.tv.melrose place, right? Okay. That was the one I was on. So the show Melrose Place, which was a really, really, really great show, and one of the finales, they couldn't even air the finale because one of the characters blew up Melrose Place, and that was the weekend Oklahoma City blew up, so they had they had to air it. So there was this one plot line where Kimberly, who started following me on Twitter not that long ago, so that really made my day. She was babysitting Joe's baby, okay, whatever, and Joe comes to show up at the house. And Kimberly's like, what are you talking about? This is my baby. And like shuts the door in her face and like steals the kid. And me and some yeah, this show is completely insane. It made no sense on any level. But me and some other people started arguing on the message board that Kimberly was in fact correct, the mother of the kid, and Joe was lying, which makes no sense within that universe. But like they would actually argue like, no, it's Joe's baby. So yeah, I spent a lot of time on those message boards.
That's too funny. Well, so so I 99 2000, you know, people tell me, hey, everyone's talking about you on this message board. I'm like, oh, okay, what's that? I don't know what that is. And I go on there, and everyone's talking trash about how these dudes are gonna whoop me at state, which is the following week. And I'm like, so I just put it as myself, and I'm like, nah, I'm going to whoop their ass. And then I went and whooped their ass. And then I went and partied on these dudes afterwards. Like, see, I told you guys all I was going to do that. And now I did it. And, you know, what I gathered is these were mostly adults, right? There weren't many kids from that. But I got a very early lesson in how like groupthink works.
Yeah.
Right. And how people think in a mass. And so then like the next 2 years, I would just spend like, I would spend my time trying to mess with all these people. Like, so I'd do stupid stuff. Like, I remember one time that was funny. I don't know if I put this in the book or not, but I was walking to the finals of this tournament, and I saw this dude on the street with a blow up pig. And I don't know why this dude had a blow up pig. I'm like, hey man, I'll give you $20 for that. And so I paid the dude $20 for this blow up pig, and I took it to the finals, and everyone's talking about it the next day. You know, so it's like I could just think of like, hey, what can mess with these people? I don't know if you remember this commercial, but I actually just had to find it for someone. There was this commercial at the same era, probably 2000, 2001, where they chased the guy with Eye of the Tiger on the boombox.
I don't remember this. Well, no, I remember a prank where they did that.
No, but then they made it into a commercial also. Okay. I don't remember who it was for, but I did find it. I think it was New Balance or something like that. And so I would do that at tournaments. I would chase people around with I had Tiger playing, right? So just like doing that, it's trolling, right? Before I actually knew what trolling was. And I just kind of was entertained by it.
One of the other things that I want to talk to you about is you go over a lot. And I want to hear it from, you know, you break it down even more about how much wrestling is a mental game, how a lot of times your key to success wasn't necessarily that you were stronger or more skilled than the other guy, that you knew if you just kind of kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him, that moment that you'd feel him break. And that's when you're like, all right, I got him. Can you describe how do you know that someone's broken, like as best you can?
Yeah, that is, that's hard to do without doing it. You know, it's one of those things that's like, unless you've been there in the moment, it's really like strange feeling because you don't really do it any other time in your life. But yeah, everyone has this point where they just give up. And some people actually, I think we saw like Leon Edwards, is a great example. Leon Edwards versus Usman in the 4th round, he broke. Like he did not have a lot of effort. And Dean Thomas made that comment, but then he came back, right? And people, you can bounce back, like you can give up mentally for a little bit, and then after all, say, nah, I'm not giving up anymore. Boom, I'm coming back, right? And then like get tough. And I think that fight is going to teach Leon Edwards a lot. But yeah, everyone has this point where they break, and so especially when that's part of your strategy, a main part of winning. The younger I was, the more it was a part of my strategy of winning. You can tell from the subtle cues how long it takes them to get back to center, how hard they're breathing, what their posture's like, when the period's over. Like you start telling these things. And I was actually just telling an athlete about this the other day, is like, and if you're the one who's getting tired and you're giving these physical signals, that only tells the other guy to go harder, right? Yeah. If you see your opponent and he's looking really fatigued, that kind of motivates you. That says, oh my God, okay, he's getting tired. I'm about to get his ass, versus like, if you're the one, if I'm really, really tired and I don't look tired, I'm just giving kind of stone face, and the other guy's tired and he looks at me and I don't look tired. He's like, dang it, this guy's still fresh. What do I got to do? Like this guy won't stop coming at me, So I think a lot of it is a mental process too. And once you use it as a strategy, you kind of start learning it better and better and better.
One of the things that the UFC taught people is, I mean, you and I are around the same age. When we grew up, like the people we would see would be like WWF, right? So everyone's like the Ultimate Warrior. They're this juiced up, huge tanks, right?
I was just telling some kids about the Ultimate Warrior and how great his shtick was yesterday. When it come in,
it wasn't great at all. First of all, he's running from the locker room, so he's gassed by the time.
It was so awesome. Give me a break.
Oh, please. Oh, please. He's terrible. He was a joke.
Hold on. Last night, this one kid was late, and I was doing a lesson with like 8 kids. This one kid was late, and he runs in with his headgear on, just ready to go. And I'm like, oh man, that's Ultimate Warrior stuff right there.
He changed his name to Ultimate Warrior or to Warrior.
No, I didn't know that.
No, because like the name was like the trademark of the WWF. Oh. So he's like, screw you. China did the same thing, and now they're both dead. So I guess lesson learned. Point I was making is, when we were growing up, you would think that's what a fighter looks like, right? He's like the 6'3", 250 tank. And then UFC showed those big guys gas. It's actually not advantageous to be this muscle bound when you're wrestling. You lose flexibility. But when you're coming up, you talk about like you were going up against dudes who were like much more massive than you, even though you're in the same weight class. Was that ever intimidating for you? Or were you like, this guy's a clown, he doesn't know who he's up against?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, I guess I would say a little bit of both. Obviously, it wouldn't hurt to look a little more jacked. That doesn't ever make anyone feel bad. And yeah, I think guys, obviously, when you get too much muscle, it definitely it's a hindrance in any type of combat sports, right? It's not a look contest. And so when you start getting too big, I think of one of the guys I think of like who'd be the prime example would be Bobby Lashley. I don't know if you remember him.
No, I don't think I do.
Okay, so he was a real wrestler. Did really good, wrestled like 177, and then he actually went to WWE. He got gigantic. I mean,
that guy, yeah, he was he had the WWF physique, right? Of course, he was the first
huge.
one, yeah.
And then he went back to Bellator, and like he would gas. I mean, he would gas harder than I've ever. Like he would gas to the point where like this dude couldn't even get up anymore. So yes, it does become a hindrance. But no, I think I like the role of like the guy who doesn't look all that intimidating, and then just goes out there and brings the heat.
One of the other things that I think people don't appreciate about guys like you is, you talk a lot of smack, but you guys are fighters, so you can take it just as well as everybody else. So what ends up happening is when you become a name, people are scared to kind of hit back, and then it ends up you looking like a bully. But it's not like you're gonna assault someone. Like, you talk shit, but you also like shit talked in your direction. I mean, we had dinner when you're in town. It was just a lot of fun. Does it bother you when people kind of have you like on a pedestal?
That's a great question. I would say there's a balance because like, say I go to coach wrestling tournaments, right? And, sometimes these knucklehead teenagers just come up and start saying wild stuff. And I'm like, dude, like, you're a 15-year-old, beat it, like get lost. Like I'm not wasting my time with you, like Seriously, like I mean, honestly, a few like I throw them on the ground, and then I'm like, oh shit, like someone's probably gonna get that on camera and say I'm like, like it's in good fun. Like I don't hurt him. I'm just I shake him up a little bit.
Yeah.
And no, I don't mind it though. But obviously, if it's good nature and good fun, which most of the time if I'm saying something it is, I don't generally mind it.
This episode is brought to you by Pluralsight. Hey guys, good software delivery gets teams working, keeps projects on track, and customers happy. Bad software delivery confuses teams, stalls projects, and causes customers to run away till there's no customers, and you have to close your business and mine crypto in your friend's backyard. Don't mine crypto in your friend's backyard. Try Pluralsight and bring visibility and predictability to your team's software delivery. Learn more at pluralsight.com/vision.
This is Walk-Ins Welcome with Bridget Pedicy.
I love hearing people's stories of resilience and grit. This is why I created this podcast.
We are very excited to welcome Jim Gaffigan, Yasmin Mohammed, Glenn Beck, Tim Dillon, Abigail Schreier, Jeff Garland, Ayan Hirsi Ali, Sam Harris, Heather Hying,
Jonah Goldberg,
Ben Shapiro, Glenn Greenwald, Sarah Shahi, Colin Quinn.
If there's a culture of victimhood, then let's tell stories of grit and survival.
Subscribe and listen now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's get back to the show. One of the other things that I really liked about this, and I want to hear you talk about it more, because I'm not a fighter, but sometimes I'll get into it having an argument with someone, and they don't got shit to say, and you could just kind of run the floor with them, and it's really, really fun because they're trapped and they have nowhere to go.
Yes.
We talked several times in this book about how there'll be guys you're fighting and they've got nothing, and you're basically there. Was that to you like wrestling or fighting at your favorite part, where it's just like, this is my house and I'm just gonna have fun for the next however many rounds or sessions?
So I would say a little bit of both. Wrestling is not nearly as unpredictable as fighting is. Fighting can be very unpredictable. Obviously, unfortunately in my case it can end in a very quick instant. So in fighting, like I got a lot of shit because I had 6 fights in a row where I went to decision, and it's like, guys, no part of me wants to fight this dude for 25 minutes. Like if I can put him away in 90 seconds, I'm gonna put him away. But early in my career, I just didn't have the skills to do that. So no, I don't think I ever played with my food in MMA because it was just like it's just too risky to do that. I mean, there were some guys like I talk about. I try to kind of keep an even keel, but like with say Carl Amasu, who talks so much smack. He got to the point where he was exhausted, where he was almost not dangerous, like almost defenseless to a certain extent. And so did Koreshkov, just because I gassed him out, So then it kind of became enjoyable. But then like Koreshkov was so boring after a while, I was like looking at the ref like, hey, this dude's not like going to fight back. You want to stop this at some point, or like you can maybe keep punching him? Like, it just like got boring after a while. So I think for a competitor, especially if we talk about the flow state, is when challenge meets your skill level is when you're having the most fun. And that was one of the things why I retired, is just I was too much better than everyone else I was fighting, and I'd never got to fight those guys who were better than me, and so I was kind of not entertained by it at all.
One of the things that you talk about a lot in this book, and I want to know, if you got any feedback since you put it out, is you are not particularly a big fan of Dana White, who's the head of the UFC. Dana publicly said, that you're a boring fighter. They had a contract with you, then they pulled it out at the last minute without giving a reason. It seems like you still don't know why that ended up happening.
Still don't know.
Yeah. And so, and you very publicly, went after him and just called him on his crap. Whereas I think most people in that world, since the UFC is almost a monopoly, are really on eggshells around Dana. And so much of people who get title fights are just a function of whether Dana White happens to like them or not.
It's a decent part of it. I would say, I think you maybe, and who knows, maybe this is the way I wrote it, but I feel like I'm not as anti-Dana as maybe you made it seem there. Okay. Like, obviously, there's especially parts early in my career. I mean, the dude shut me out of the UFC without a contract. I was 12-0. Chimaev just made a comment that Pereira won the world title at 6-1. And one of Dana's main lies about me was that I didn't have enough experience. Like I was 12-0. I talk about that they signed CM Punk, who was 0-0. But I think kind of watching Dana the last handful of years, I think he's grown up. I think he's matured a little bit, and I think he is a little bit of a different person than he was back then, maybe. So no, I don't really kind of hold it against him too much. I try to do that. I don't think bitterness is a great emotion, so I try to not do that as frequently as possible.
One of the so I had to DM you because I read a paragraph in this book which made me
I sent you a picture.
Yeah, I couldn't even look at the picture. I think we'll put it. I don't know if we're gonna put it up. Because I don't know if I want to scare the audience because I was scared to look at it. So I'm just gonna read this paragraph because.
Wait, did you look at it though?
No,
Why not? Come on, Michael, go look.
I am not a tough cookie. Like I people come at me and they're like, "Oh, you think you're a badass?" No, I don't. Let me read this paragraph to you, which just you're in Belarus, part of Team USA. You're in Belarus, part of Team USA, just 4 weeks before my first bout in Bellator that I broke my finger off. And when I read that sentence, I'm like, all right, what does he mean? He's like, oh, he goes, or I should say, I somewhat grotesquely mangled my right ring finger in a practice session, which left anyone who saw it in mute horror. The finger came out of the socket and slid down the side, which I registered in slow motion. Now, when I read that, I was so horrified. I misread it that it was the ring finger and I thought it was the pinky. And I was envisioning like your pinky going like this, which I didn't think was possible.
So it went down.
Hold on. I glanced at it in the heat of training, kept going. And then a moment later thought, I must have misseen what I think I saw. Turns out, no, I hadn't. It was mangled. The two joints were dislocated and the top part of the finger had slid down inside the skin.
Yeah. Pretty gross.
How is that even possible?
Well, I actually don't know how it's possible. So, but I did send you. I did send you a picture. You guys should put the picture up because people are be wondering now, like, what is? So what essentially happened is like these two knuckles. So you can see my fingers that is still messed up from that, right? So these two knuckles somehow it popped out, right, and then it slid down. So like if you look in the just go look at the picture, Michael.
I don't want to look at it,
Michael. Just come on, dude. If you go look at the picture,
I'll look at it right now. Okay, fine. Let me go in the DMs.
If you go look at the picture,
I'll pull it up. Okay.
These two knuckles are like down. It drops down like halfway down the finger.
Why did you make me do this?
Right. So yeah. So it like dropped down. Like somehow they popped off and like I don't know if it's the muscle or something. The muscles like pulled it down this part of my finger.
I want to cry. Wait. In the picture, this joint is next to this.
That's what I'm saying. It like dropped down my finger somehow.
I don't understand.
I don't know. So yes,
because you still have muscles in there to hold it in place.
That must be why. Something like that. Yeah, I'm not a doctor.
Wait, but how did that feel? Did it not hurt more than anything you felt in your life?
No, it actually did. No, I think I was just maybe in shock. No, it wasn't really all that painful. I don't know. It just wasn't. I don't want to tell you. I didn't
move it.
No, I like looked at it and and then I was like, wait. And I looked at it again, and then I was like, and then I went and found my buddy. I think I said this book. I went and found my buddy Raymond. I said, hey Raymond, like I need to go to the hospital. He said, what happened? And I like turned away and I showed it to him, and he was like, ah! And everyone just started screaming, But I talk about in the book, the Belarusian doctor, he put
that's the other part. That it gets worse.
That was the worst. That was honestly probably the number one pain I felt in my whole life. That is it.
Right. Tell that part. Tell what happened after.
So, well, yeah. So on the way home from the hospital, the translator, he says, how much you think this cost? And I said, I don't know. Listen, I got an X-ray. They stitched it. They cast it. I don't know. It's probably like in America, I don't know, kind of expensive. And he says, well, we'll give him a bottle of wine. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, and literally as soon as I got home, I went and called who I needed to call. And I'm like, I need to be on a plane back home tomorrow. Like, I got to come home and make sure they did this right. Because if someone's doing something for the price of a bottle of wine, it's probably not that good. And then, yeah. So he like somehow stitched through a nerve in my finger. And I swear, so it kind of got buried. And then the doctor had to they used a tweezer and pulled it up. And I swear, Mike, it went from here. It went all the way up, like through my body. Like, I don't even know how it's possible. It was awful. That was the worst part. Probably one of the worst pains in my life.
Oh my! The way I know you're that feeling, the close thing I can relate to is I had an electric catfish. And
Wait,
once
what's that?
it's a catfish that can shoot electricity, right?
That's
how
a
they
thing?
capture.
Is this
Yeah,
real?
yeah. They're in the Nile. So
Ooh.
I was cleaning the tank, and all of a sudden I felt the shock, like it went through my finger to my balls. It was very mild, but it was still like,
Are you serious?
it must have been the exact same chain that you felt.
Something like, yeah, that's how it felt. I felt like it went through my body. Yes.
Yeah. Ooh. So is your finger still work? Is it fine?
Yeah. I mean, I still, obviously now we're a decade later, right? It's still a little bit swollen, but no, it mostly works.
Wait. So I got to break this down. So when the American doctor looked at it and said they stitched it into the nerve, and he told you they're going to have to pull the nerve out.
Yeah. They want to restitch it. Yeah.
What was did you realize how painful it was going to be?
No. I went in and they cut the cast off, the Bellers cast. They cut that off, and they looked at it and they're like, I don't think that looks right, or I don't remember what they said. Right, this doesn't look right.
Sure.
We're gonna restitch it for you, essentially. So I just put my hand on the table, and I had no idea. I don't even know. They probably didn't know a stitch to a nerve. They just said, this looks terrible, we're redoing it.
Sure.
And so I gave my hand, and yeah, they freaking pulled on it, and I started screaming because, like I said, it was probably one of the worst pains ever felt.
There's another paragraph I want to read. So one of the things you talk about is being on the spectrum, which is just like everyone else in my audience. So there's this one paragraph I want to read, because this is probably the most autistic paragraphs I've read in any fighting book. And it's so autistic, you're not even going to realize it was autistic until I read it to you. Okay. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. So you're talking about your Bellator debut. Oh, this is right after. This is literally the next paragraph.
Okay.
I had less than a month to heal. I started calling myself the one-handed bandit in the short training camp. Great. I couldn't use my right arm to train for my Bellator debut against Ryan Thomas. Of course, I didn't utter a peep of any of this to Bellator, because there was no way in hell I was going to miss my opportunity to fight on the bigger stage. Okay. I was competing even if they had to cut my finger off. To top it all off, I got married to Amy just 6 days before the fight. Don't you think your wife deserves like a paragraph of her own instead of just a fucking sentence? Like that she's a lovely woman. Like don't you think that story should have gone in the book? Getting married, that's kind of a big deal.
That's a good question. I didn't think about that. Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't talk a lot about my personal life and my kids or anything in the book. Yeah, I don't know. I read a lot, and maybe this is my autistic self again, because it's probably what they'll say is like, when they start talking about the personal stuff, I'm like, not interesting. Close the book, skip the chapter.
Yeah, but there's ways to make it interesting.
I don't know. Like, okay, listen here. Have you read like business biographies are especially bad at this, right? It's like great book. They start the company. It's hard as shit. They're grinding. They get big. All these cool stories. You're really into it. And then they get rich as shit. And then the last 2 chapters are like listing the 47 philanthropies that they donate to. And you're like, sure. I couldn't care less. I agree with you. I'm done. I'm done with this book.
I agree with you. That's
terrible. Sure they're important to that person. I just don't give a damn.
So let me, okay, here's when I was doing the MMA book.
I should ask my wife what she thinks.
Yeah, when I was doing the MMA book, there was a headline earlier. This is from The Onion. This is many years ago. Mm-hmm. And that, the Onions has headlines without articles. Yes, and the headline was, Crocodile Hunter is like that in bed. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure to have in the book is like, what are these guys like in the bedroom? Are they putting on Kimuras? Are they, you know what I mean? Are they aggressive? Blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was just kind of fun. That was just
my wife does tell me I try to wrestle her too much.
There's something else in here. I marked off all the pages I really liked. Was this a fun experience for you writing this? It seems like you had fun writing it.
Yeah, it was good. So I had my friend Chuck Mindenhall help me. I really think he's a great writer. And so we talked, and then he would write a chapter, and we go back and forth. And I thought his skill of getting, you said earlier my personality, but like some of the ways he says a sentence is like that. It's like exactly how I would say that sentence. So I thought it was fun. Kind of rehashing all the things that happened.
So what else I want to talk to you about is obviously you are the only person I know who has like 2 gifts. that are in wide rotation of them, like you with Jake Paul, and then you with that flying knee kick. But the things that you talk about, you know, you give these dudes credit. You're not trying to like talk smack or so on and so forth. You put that in context. Can you talk about that flying knee? Because, you know, this happened with Pat Miletich. I think he lost the fight because he got put into a bulldog choke. And it was such like a rare move that like that was the first, if you Googled bulldog choke at the time,
I'm gonna look it up. That sounds familiar because yeah. All right, keep going. I'm gonna look up Pat Militich's record and see which one it was, because I know what you're talking about.
No, so when he lost to the guy who Hughes won, it was the guy with the afro.
Oh my goodness, what is his name?
Come out with, I forget what, you can look him up. But Eddie, the point is Dana
Carlos Newton.
Yeah, exactly. He put Pat in a bulldog choke, and then it was like such a random move. Can you break down the bit that flying knees when you got knocked out in literally 5 seconds? Because it's such a crazy move to open with. It worked.
Unfortunately, and probably why it was effective against me, and who maybe will be in the future, but it's you know, a lot of fighting and wrestling is pattern recognition, and the way he ran and jumped into it at that point, no one really did that. You know, they might do it off of like a standstill, like punch, 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 jump, right? Jump, flying knee, or something like that. But they generally weren't covering like a lot of space, you know, like a lot of distance. And so I think that was probably why it caught me so off guard, was because he was able to cover a lot of distance. And that was just like different than anything I had seen at that point.
And it was also like you were talking about, this was a high risk move, because if he's not landing that, he's way exposed, and then you taking him down, and now he's in a world of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's the other thing. I always thought, like, hey, sometimes the flying knee, it's whatever, because I'll just take him down and beat him up after that. And you know, they probably still to this point, they probably aren't super high percentage or anything. I mean, we've seen a few notable ones, that being the most notable, land in competition. But yeah, they're generally not super high percentage maneuvers.
Hey guys, we have a new client with amazing extreme altitude wines from the Bonner Private Wine Partnership. Just had a bottle of their 9,000-foot Malbec at a party I threw. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. It's grilling season. Flavors go great with any meat you're going to have. They're unlike any wine you've ever tasted. They've got blackberry, leather, smoke, and a little dark cherry in the notes. These wines are almost impossible to get on your own. The producers are deep in the Andes Mountains, and they make a limited quantity. And the best part is Bonner Private Wines cuts out the middleman, so there's no large markup. Today, I have an amazing introductory offer. If you visit bonnerprivatewines.com/Michael, you'll not only get wine for 50% off plus free shipping, you'll also get a bonus bottle of small batch, limited production wine from their exclusive wine cellar. That's 4 bottles for the price of 3. It's a deal that's hard to turn down if you're a wine lover. Just visit bonnerprivatewines.com/Michael to claim your bonus bottle and become a part of America's most unique wine club. Hey guys, Your Welcome is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Let's face it, sometimes multitasking can be overwhelming. Like when your favorite podcast is playing and the person next to you is talking and your car fan is blasting, all while you're trying to find the perfect parking spot. But then again, sometimes multitasking is easy, like quoting with Progressive Insurance. They do the hard work of compare rates so you can find a great rate that works for you, even if it's not with them. Give their nifty comparison tool a try. You might just find getting the rate and coverage you deserve is easy. All you need to do is visit Progressive's website to get a quote with all the coverages you want, like comprehensive and collision coverage or personal injury protection. Then you'll see Progressive's direct rate, and their tool will provide options from other companies all lined up and ready to compare. So it's simple to choose the rate and coverages you like. Press play on comparing auto rates, quote at progressive.com to join the over 27 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Let's get back to the show. So one of the things you also talk about, obviously, your big fight with Jake Paul, boxing, and a lot of people know you from that and that kind of loss. But can you go into more like how you went into that? Obviously, it was a big purse, but the point is, he's still a big dude. The guy's obviously in good shape. It's not like he's a complete, just some rando they picked off the street.
Well, unfortunately, he's better than what anyone anticipated, right? Okay. So, I mean, when he has beat Anderson Silva, who's, when I think of myself in striking, I know I'm not that good. And Tyron Woodley is much better than me at boxing. And then Anderson Silva is probably much better than the both of us. Tyron might disagree. I don't know. Anderson Silva is really, really good at boxing.
Yeah, it's no joke.
And he's larger, obviously. Right? He's a 185 pounder. So basically, when I accepted the fight, it was well, first of all, I was just tweeting like I normally do. And Jake Paul had fought. I don't. Nate Robinson. He fought Nate Robinson, and I just tweeted about it. And then the next week, someone calls me and said, "Well, would you fight him?" I'm like, sure, why not? Right, like I don't know, I didn't think much about it. And then kind of like they a couple weeks later they call back, they're more serious. They were like, were you serious? I'm like, yeah, and kind of. I said earlier, like you can't really worry too much about what people think, and you should just do the things you want to do. I was coming off my hip surgery. I was really overweight. I needed a reason to kind of like start training again. Just because after hip surgery, you're literally not supposed to be on your feet for 3 months. And so then it was like I boxed kids in my parents' basement for fun when I was a kid. So like on a Friday night, we'd have boxing gloves, and if we didn't have anything to do, we'd come over to my house and we go on the wrestling mats and say, "Oh, you fight you." And, you box for 5 minutes or whatever and be done, and then the next person goes. And we all thought it was a fun time. And so that's kind of what I thought. I was like, at the end of the day, like I think this is gonna be fun, And obviously, I would change the result if I could, but the whole process was relatively enjoyable. I liked training for a fight again. I got to meet some really cool people. I got to train with Freddie Roach, and really, so the only thing that really actually sucked about it was losing. And if I could change that, then it would have been a tremendous experience.
Can you talk about how wrestling has changed since you were coming up? It seems like, especially it's one of those sports. Also, powerlifting is another one where in 20 years, like it's just really kind of insane.
Powerlifting?
Yeah, because it used to be. Now kids are leaving high school like deadlifting 600. It's just crazy how much, because people have figured out the process. When they start younger, it's kind of asymptotic. They're escalating really quickly. But I'm guessing wrestling is somewhat similar, no? In some ways, or no?
Yeah, wrestling is starting to move really fast. I'm actually kind of shocked about powerlifting though. That one that's pretty surprising to me. I'm actually pretty surprised also that you are so in tune with powerlifting.
Well, I mean, I was an underwear model after all.
No, was this serious or joke?
Yeah, sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code. Pull it up. Yes.
Wow.
Listen, we can't all be. That's
awesome. I didn't know it. Okay,
some of us are in good shape, Ben. Maybe
you and Luke Rockhold, underwear models. So wrestling. Okay, so I think one of the reasons wrestling is starting to change so quickly from a technical standpoint. Now, there's other, like the fan standpoint. I think is getting much better. NCAAs are always sold out. Big Tens are sold out. There's a lot of dual meets that are getting good attendance now. But Flow Wrestling was started actually out of Austin in 2007.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so what that gave, because I talk about this a lot, is when I was growing up, I wanted to watch sports, but there was no real internet access to sports or streaming. So what I could watch, what was on TV, so it was either basketball, baseball, or football. Like there was nothing else to watch. And now, someone who's interested in something, I watch 3 things. I watch wrestling, I watch fighting, and I watch disc golf. And they're all, if I want them to all access to my phone, I can just pop my phone open, access the Flow Wrestling app or the Disc Golf Pro Tour or ESPN Plus probably, or the UFC, and I watch what I want to watch, And so people having access to wrestling matches makes people be able to be fans of it, right? If you can't actually watch it, it's so hard to be a fan. And that was how it was when I was, even probably in high school. It probably didn't start till when I was in college, where people could actually watch matches in real time and then discuss them with their friends and talk about them, go to the message boards, which we talked about earlier, and debate with people. Like that didn't start till 2007 when Flow, and probably even a few years past that.
Can you explain also what it's like? Because when you're wrestling a dude or when you're fighting a dude, it's you versus him. There's no one else, right? Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. You're both trying to dominate.
Yep.
You talk about how it's, and this is, every fighter agrees with this, it's much harder when you're going against someone you like or you respect than against someone who you hate, who you just want to take their head off or break their arm or something like that. What's it like? So it's very much this kind of alpha, like, I'm a man, I'm going to kind of impose my will on another dude, especially wrestling where it's so physical, one physical plus proximity. What's it like to have to retire at such a young age? I mean, it's not like you're in a wheelchair or kind of missing your teeth.
Yeah.
So how is that psychological? How do you deal with that?
Well, I would say most wrestlers retire after. I mean, well, actually, probably from a statistical standpoint, most are retire after high school.
Yeah.
Because very few make that jump. I think it's like, I want to say at any division level, I think it's 3% make it to the college level.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's small, and then obviously past that is probably maybe 3% of that go past college. So most wrestlers are retiring young, and actually my bookshelf, like I said, is right over there, and I always read about athletes hanging on too long, and so I never wanted to compete that late in my career. I always thought, okay, I want to have something else I want to move on and be passionate about, because I think that's something where a lot of athletes get caught up doing only their athletics, and so then when they're done, they're like, oh wait, what do I do now? What am I gonna do? Like they don't even know where to start. They're like, oh, okay, maybe I'll get a hobby, and then like I need to do something, because like for maybe a month sitting around like doing nothing and hanging out, it's kind of cool. And then it gets like, oh wait, this is what I'm gonna do every day. This is boring. Like I need to do something. So yeah, I think I was able to set myself up with something I really enjoyed to move on to. So no, I don't hate it. And I still, I'm on the mat like almost every day, and I'm actually like wrestling with the guys probably three or four times a week. Where I'm staying in there and staying in shape and doing that type of thing. So no, I love being retired early. I love coaching. So no, I'm not really sad about that at all.
I mean, as a coach, what's your coaching style? Are you like a shit talker? Are you a big motivator? I've seen both sides you come out in this book. One where you're like flapping your gums. Other times you're very kind of big on being inspirational and kind of giving the kids a hand up. Like, what's your style more like?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think the best coach is able to figure out exactly what each kid needs to hear.
Okay.
Right. And some kids, you need to calm down and be more focused. Sometimes some guys, it's like you need to pick it up and you need to be tougher. I mean, each athlete kind of has a little bit of their own thing that they need. So I think the key to coaching is being able to find the recipe of like, what does this kid need? Right. Not just from a technical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint, I guess another one that's probably maybe the most common one is like getting kids to believe in themselves. That's a big one. That's probably the biggest one actually of all the problems you deal with, is getting a kid to actually believe like you can do it. Like whether it's being a state qualifier, being a state champion, going to college, like you can do it. Like, let's go.
Like, I mean, I think a lot of times, and I certainly have to deal with this growing up, coming from a Russian family, like their home environment is not one that is supportive or conducive. And especially because wrestling, a lot of people, especially parents, like they don't even know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure it kind of carries a lot of weight when someone who's walked the walk, who's been doing this for all of us for his entire life, it sits down and says, "Look, kid, you got it in you."
You just sent me your underwear picture.
My modeling picture, yeah.
I can't stay focused on your questions when you're sending me underwear pictures.
Oh, yeah. People can take from that what they want.
Yeah. No, I mean, what you said, yes, is exactly it. Is it takes a lot for the kids to be able to be like, yeah, I can go achieve that thing. And a lot of them, some is like on a local level, they realize, hey, they can be the best guy in the area, or maybe the best in the state. But then to take that next jump, like, wait, I can be the best in America, or I can go get a college scholarship. Like, yeah, it takes does take quite a bit to convince someone they can do that. And well, I mean, now fortunately with AWA, we've been around for long enough where we've pretty much now had someone do all the things. So now me selling it to them isn't really all that hard, because I can say, look, this guy did it, that guy did it, like you can do it too.
Yeah, it was special. My buddy Trey, he's a power lifter, and he trains with the guys who are like breaking world records. And when you're training next to a guy who's literally just over there breaking the world record in squats, a lot of times it makes it, instead of seeing someone on the screen or someone in a book, it's like, wait a minute, he's right over there. You know what I mean? I go talk to him. It makes it a lot less impossible and more like, okay, I just got to put in the work. Like, what do you do when someone their mouth is bigger than their talent? And they think they're hot shit, and you can see that they're not, and they've got all these vulnerabilities.
That's one of the things that almost never happens in wrestling. It does happen. It happens in MMA gyms for sure.
Okay.
But in wrestling, you get your face rubbed in the mat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way. I mean, if someone actually, first of all, they have to be a really high skill level to even think they have a shot against me. right? High school. I have never had a high school kid come close to beating me yet, and we've had a few guys who've. Mitchell Mesmerink last summer took second in the world at 20 under. Keegan O'Toole won the 20 under division, the world championships. So we've had kids that have been really good. That's not the issue, right? It's just like there's just a difference between even 20 under is kind of an adult, but between that and like a real adult, you know. You just rub their face in the mat. I'd say, okay, like if you let's do it. And then I rub their face in the mat for 20 minutes, and then they'd get the picture. They get the picture that you're not that good. Sometimes if the middle schoolers, oh, you know what? This does happen sometimes. Sometimes the middle schoolers think they're better than they are. I'll wrestle them with no hands, and they can't beat me.
I love the idea.
I'll literally put my hands behind my back and say, okay, take me down. And then they can't take me down. And then I say, okay, now stop talking so much.
Boy, you sure showed that 12-year-old.
For real. Sometimes, because sometimes they won't shut up. You got to show them what's up.
Let's talk a bit. Before we start recording, the first thing you did was go on Twitter and to point out that you have 1.1 thousand more followers than I do. We'll see if I catch up with you. What do you think of Elon's changes to Twitter? How has that affected your use of the health site?
So I guess what I think is I actually love that he's out here trying things, because I think that's how progress is made, is you have to go try things. And then some things you're like, oh, that was a terrible idea. That was a good idea. But if you're too scared to try anything, you're never going to get anywhere. So I do like that he's trying things. I particularly don't like that he's giving everyone a blue check. And this, now I realized I actually tweeted about this Saturday night. And then I thought about it. I think everyone probably thinks I'm the spoiled famous guy, and I'm sure you did it too, Michael. There's a verified tab. Once you're verified, there's a verified tab, and you only see other verified comments. So I don't generally read through my other comments. So I just go to the verified comments, see is anyone important talking about what I'm talking about, and then I'll interact with that person. And now it's filled with all kinds of people because all they had to do was pay $8 to be in that category.
Yeah, and when you complain about it, it sounds like you're this out of touch elitist, which I certainly am. But I think, and I pride myself on it. But what I think people don't appreciate is if I have, Donald Trump Jr. commenting on my tweet, I'm not going to see it now because it'll combine with 40 other people. And the thing and this is my autism speaking. Verified on like Tinder or Bumble means the person in this photo is the person they say they are. Verified on Instagram, the person in this photo is who they say they are. But on Twitter, verified now means paid. So I could be Ben Askren 47 and be verified, but it's not Ben Askren. It's someone, who just paid $8. So it's just simply inaccurate to call that person verified. So that's the kind of a source of frustration.
And I think you could have created, maybe like an orange, an orange check or a different colored check, right? And it would be very simple. Very simple to kind of denote both of them. And because obviously getting rid of the bots should be, it's funny. The bots kind of go like on and off, where sometimes they're insane on Twitter. And then I think maybe Twitter figures out how to beat them, and they kind of go away. But like for a while, it's not happening right now, but for a while, the crypto bots, like anytime you post anything, it was like freaking right away, and that made it kind of impossible for anyone to do replies or anything like that, and so I think there's definitely a verification process necessary. It needs to be different than the other verified.
Now you mentioned crypto, so I want to take a second to talk about a good way for people to keep their money preserved, and that's Patriot Gold. Guys, it is true carnage in the stock market. It's unlike anything we've ever seen, and the average stock is down 41.7% from its 52-week high. That means stocks have to rally 71.5% now to get back to their high. And there's more interest rate hikes expected from Morgan Stanley, from Deutsche Bank, and others. They're all warning about another 25% slide in stocks. And meanwhile, gold is only down 8%. It's proven to be a source of protecting wealth, and it's a hedge against inflation. John Paulson, he's a billionaire. He said last week that gold will rise when the Fed fails to get inflation back to 2%. And when the Fed admit that inflation has won in a knockout, gold will soar. So do yourself a favor, check out Patriot Gold Group. If you call 888-505-9845, you can sign up to get the free 2022 Gold IRA Kit. And inside the 2022 Gold IRA Kit, you'll learn how you can instantly get up to $10,000 or more. Seriously, get up to 10% back on money that you decide to protect. You'll learn how to do it 100% tax and penalty free. Yep, there's a way to legally safeguard your retirement savings tax and penalty free. And you'll also learn how you can protect and grow your retirement right now. With the economy in such a state of uncertainty, protect your retirement savings from inflation and dollar devaluation. Best thing about it all, it's all free. Gold IRAs have helped thousands protect over $1 billion in retirement savings. Yes, $1 billion. And Patriot Gold has been helping Americans protect and secure their retirement savings in gold IRAs for over a decade. And one of the best values out there is the no fee for life IRA with qualified accounts of 100 grand or more. No fees for storage, no fees for shipping, no rollover fees, no new account setup fees, no fees for the life of your account. With Patriot Gold Group, you'll never pay retail and always work directly with the owners. Patriot Gold has a group of industry experts with a wealth of experience. They've held senior positions at some of the largest retail precious metal investment firms in the US, and they eliminate multiple layers of executive and shareholder compensation. They work directly with you to secure the most competitive pricing on gold and silver. And the proof in what they do is right there. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, top rated, highest rated, featured by Consumer Affairs 6 years in a row. They've earned over 1,000 5-star customer reviews. They're ranked #1 by both Investopedia and Money.com, and they're even endorsed by Dick Morris. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Mention me, that's Michael Malice, and you get best-in-class service from Patriots protecting Patriots. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the no fee for life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Call 888-505-9845 and you get a free investor guide today. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top rated gold IRA dealer 6 years in a row. 888-505-9845 and tell them Michael Malice sent you. The thing that also bothers me about what Elon did is now he's protecting the blue checks. So before, if there was some corporate journalist and they had some horrible take, if I replied as another blue check, my reply would be at the top. So I could ratio them very easily. And now I think that's gone away. So all these horrible corporate journalists and other establishment people who have horrible takes, I'm sure that would include me. Now I can't get ratioed as easily. I'm protected because there's going to be everyone else who's a blue check. Is my understanding.
Well, the other thing, Mike, that's annoying, I'm sure you noticed this, is I don't know what the process was before, but there had to be something where that people were, specifically news organizations, were paying Twitter for blue checks because
no. I'll tell you what it was. I'll tell you exactly what it was. So Twitter wanted to have a good relationship with journalists, right? So the way they did this is if you had a Ben Askren at columbiajournal.com and you filed the form, you would get verified immediately. So instantly, every journalist is higher status than everybody else. So of course, they're going to be more amenable to presenting Twitter's point of view and benefiting the company as opposed to being objective.
Yeah, because you'd see people with like 400 followers, and you'd be like, well, how's this person verified? This is ridiculous. And then, a news reporter for some podunk town or whatever. So I think Elon's eventually going to make it better. I think he's probably going to make some missteps in the meantime. But yes, I have faith that overall, over time, it's going to get better.
Let's talk a bit about crypto because you host the crypto podcast. How did you get into it? And is that because of the autism thing? Because the correlation there is really, really high.
No, it's 2017. And my friend told me about it. And I was a big Ron Paul and the Fed guy, hard money. And so I kind of understood why the Fed wasn't fair. And so when my friend told me about Bitcoin the first time, I was like, oh, wait, that makes sense. You know? And so I bought some Bitcoin all the way back then, and I see the point for it more now than ever. I did buy some stupid ICOs back in 2017, then went to zero. And then my problem this time was I knew it was happening. I argued this. I had a co-host, so we stopped the Funky Crypto podcast maybe 8 months ago. But I had a co-host who would argue never ever sell your Bitcoin. And I said, listen, if it's materially changed someone's life,
Yeah, of
Sell
course.
some, maybe not all of it, maybe not 100%, but surely sell some of it, take your profits and change your life, you know, because some of these people are buying Bitcoin at, you know, we'll say in the last cycle, the low was $3,000 to $5,000. They bought it there. It went to 70. Like if you bought a couple of them, that probably changed your life if you're not that wealthy. So sell some. That was what I would say. And then I was so dumb and I never sold any, you know, and I wasn't going to sell a lot. I was going to sell, I don't know, 20% of what I had because you know, I'm in it for the long term, like forever. Yeah. So, and, you know, I just didn't sell on time. And so now I'm sitting on it till the next cycle top, whenever that is. And then I'll probably take my own advice and sell a percentage and, you know, keep buying all the way there.
But it's kind of like real estate, right? Like if you have a bunch of houses as investment properties, like, at certain points you're going to want to sell them. Yeah, you could hold on to them in perpetuity. That's also a winning strategy. But it's not something that just, if it's a house you're not using, like what's the deal? If this is something that bothers me about crypto and why I don't talk about it as much as I should. There's this kind of fetishization of cryptocurrency where it's just like, oh, I'm so honored to be holding Bitcoin. And I get that. And I think that has a time and a place. But I think it ends up in some ways losing perspective because the point is you're storing value, but sometimes you want that value. Sometimes you want to buy a new car, you want to buy a piece of art or you know, a house.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, I think what those people would argue is that when you look at the appreciation over time, you know, on a 4-year cycle, is like it's going to go up a lot in the next 4 years. And so that, you know, that would be their argument. But then at the same time, it's like, well, there are these cycles. So it has been relatively predictable, you know, ish. And to where you can kind of sell on the way up and then buy at the bottom. You know, I think obviously like what happened in the last week is going to give crypto a bad name, but the Bitcoin maxis were actually really predicting this. There's some really prescient tweets from say April through June, we'll say somewhere in there. And I always think the way I think about Twitter is like, there's a lot of people who will act smart and then try to give recaps of what happened and explain why it happened. But the really, really smart people are the ones who are ahead of it. The ones who are saying, this is what's going to happen. And there was a whole bunch of people saying SBF was going to go bankrupt and FTX was a scam. And that's kind of, unfortunately, how it turned out.
And I think the maxis are really smart in this regard. They're correct that every so often it's a good thing to scare away the bandwagon people because it drives down the price and that's when you can buy because you're in it for the long haul. This isn't some kind of roulette thing. And second, the more cycles where Bitcoin's over, we've been hearing this every other year, you know, Bitcoin's over, Bitcoin's over, Bitcoin's over, Bitcoin's a scam. And when it just comes back stronger than ever, that demonstrates proof of concept. And I think it's very useful, you know, to have those kind of losses to show, wait a minute, you guys have been, it's like climate change. We were supposed to be underwater 20 years ago. So where is it? Why is the Statue of Liberty not drowning?
Yeah, no, I agree fully. Yeah, and so I think, you know, obviously a lot of this stuff's going to get washed away, and then the next cycle there'll be a whole bunch of bullshit. I mean, like, you know, the NFT and metaverse stuff, like, I don't know, that might never come back, right? There was a lot of things that were supposed to happen in 2017, the ICOs that they kind of boomed and then they busted, and they've never been back since. So, you know, Bitcoin is the one that is kind of like tried and true. And the other thing about Bitcoin is not just like the, you know, owning the Bitcoin, but if you start reading about what it's about, it starts making the world make a whole lot more sense to you, right? In America, we don't realize that a lot of other countries have currency devaluation at a very rapid rate. I mean, people literally don't get that. They don't understand that more than 2 billion people in the world are unbanked. They don't have access to banking services.
Then they really think that if we have a big national debt, we should just print more money and pay it off.
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, we didn't even get to that, but that's the Federal Reserve. It's totally insane. So, I mean, the Federal Reserve is probably the biggest Ponzi of all time.
Yes,
it really is. So, yeah, I'm interested to see, you know, like, especially with the Fed Reserve getting such a high debt, and now they're raising rates, like what's going to happen in the next year. It's going to be fascinating to watch in reference to Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of disappointed because there was a lot of energy as a result of Ron Paul and to a lesser extent Rand in 2015, 2016. And Trump promised that when he becomes president, he would audit the Fed by executive order within the first 6 months. And, you know, that went absolutely nowhere. And it's also very frustrating because if someone's working real estate, they really have to have an intimate understanding of the banking system, because so much of real estate deals is based on how you structure the loans and paying them back. And he knew how to work that system very well. Like, people make fun of him for going bankrupt. His business is going bankrupt several times, but like, this is a tool that anyone has uses when they're involved in real estate. And if you're going to be a lender, you have to kind of work your way around that. Understand, okay, at a certain point, that's the risk. They're not going to pay it back, and they're not going to have consequences. Their credit will go down, so on and so forth. So it's really kind of just a very complicated, messy system. What do you think about the next year? You think that things are going to get worse before they get better in terms of inflation?
I think that's probably likely. I don't know if inflation is going to get worse. They're trying to curb that, but I think, that's what a lot of the Bitcoiners said is, like, once they start raising rates, which they've done very rapidly, there's going to be a lot of things that break, because they're not used to rates being raised that fast. And then once they break, then they got to lower the rates again. Hey, if I can say one more thing about Bitcoin, and this is like, when I say, like, not just the Bitcoin, but once you start thinking about, like, what type of problems it solves, at the end of the day, it is a saving thing where, these hardcore Bitcoin maxis, they're like, don't spend more than you make. Right.
Yep.
And then whatever excess you have, you want to put that into something that is going to hold its value over time.
Yes.
And, there's so many currencies. And I tried to explain this to some people the other day, is like, okay, well, if you've saved for 40 years, say you make 100 and you save 20 every year. And then after 40 years, you have 800 and you're like, okay, well, I can live on 80 a year. That's 10 years. But then, like in, say, Argentina or Venezuela, your currency starts devaluing it.
Yep.
Some of the places 100+% per year. Now it's all of a sudden like, wait, you got 1 year. And then once that starts happening, then everyone's like, I need to spend my money as fast as I can, because there's no reason to hold on to money. So it's this weird cycle where then no one has any incentive to save or create a surplus. And right, that's kind of a really negative thing, right? Every person should be able to work hard. And so this almost be a fundamental human right, but it doesn't really work this way. Work hard, save some money. And then when you're done working hard and saving some money, your money still retains the value that it had when you first got it.
Yeah. It's like if you had a house full of milk, right? And there's no refrigeration, you're going to start consuming that milk now because it's not going to be here tomorrow. The shelf life is very small. Same thing. If your money tomorrow, it's like if you're getting shorter and shorter, right? I'm like, well, if I can either buy a car today or I can buy next week a chair, well, I better spend it now because I don't want that chair. So that does create enormously perverse incentive. Then it starts chasing itself, and then you get Hitler. I mean, this literally was
a quick jump, Michael.
But it's true. This was instrumental to Hitler getting to power, because the hyperinflation under Weimar, and he comes in, he's like, I'm going to put a stop to this, which he did to some extent. And it's like, if literally everyone is losing all their money, they're going to start looking for desperate measures to try to nip this in the bud.
Absolutely. Because there's no point in saving for the future, right? Your time preference gets really perverted.
And the great thing about crypto and Bitcoin specifically is there isn't like a pope or a president or a king. There's no organization that's going to be like, all right, we're going to be inflationary. It's strictly a result of entirely centralized, or maybe not entirely. I'm not that sure about that. Close enough where you don't have that ability to just make it worthless tomorrow, even though it's not literally based on something material.
Yeah. And then the second, the last thing, now you got me on my Bitcoin rant. So the last thing, we're actually over time. So whenever you want to cut me off, you just cut me off. Okay. The last thing is that it's probably the first thing me, the human race has ever had where personal property is truly personal property. Land has been confiscated over time. Gold has been confiscated over time. All of these things have been confiscated. Like Bitcoin, I don't have my hardware wallet. Well, I have a multi-sig that I keep off site because I started getting to the point where I'm like, this is way too much money to have at my house. Like, so I got multi-sig and I put them a few different places because if someone came to the house and said like, give me your Bitcoin, I'd just say, I literally can't. So, but like if I smashed my Trezor, right, or my cold storage wallet, and I just remember the 12 seed words, no one can take those out of my head. Yeah. Right. And if I go apply those 12 seed words, I can get my personal property back. And like, if you really understand world history, so many things that people thought were personal property were confiscated by mostly by the government, actually. But other people or the government.
Yeah, including your own family members. I mean, there's something I'm talking about in my next book. Like, if you were disobedient in East Germany, they took your kids and gave them to good communists to raise. So, it's. I think people in the West have very poor understanding of how bad things can get. I was on the Blaze a couple of weeks ago for election night, and they were just talking about how Biden's the worst president ever, and this is the end of America. And I'm like, I don't think you appreciate how bad things can get. Like, we got a long way to go before this is the end of the road. Ben, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
Well, I actually like that I got to talk to I talked to someone about Bitcoin who's not like a real hardcore Bitcoiner, because I think you have a fair and balanced view of it, and that's kind of how I would view myself too. Maybe a little more skewed that way. And then I think it's funny because bringing back the message boards, and you talked about your 90210 message boards. The message boards were a funny thing, and now I think message boards died as a result of social media, because anyone with real clout can just go say what they want to say on social media without saying it in a specialized message board. So I think that's always a fun throwback for me to talk about people who were around at that time when they were popular.
You are welcome.